Hi everyone, I'm Bia, and welcome back to Cardiac Radio for Teens. For those of you who might not know, Cardiac Radio for Teens is a place where teens can come together with other teens to learn about Spiritist teachings and topics in a way that makes more sense to us and is more relatable to us as teenagers in today's society. Last week, we started reading Chapter 12 of the Spirit's book together, which is all about moral perfections. So the first section in this chapter is virtues and vices. And a virtue is something of a high moral standard, of like one of the best things you can be doing. And a vices is something wicked or not such a great behavior that you're having, or attitude. So now we're talking about the difference between the really great things that standards that we can have, or the low ones, the ones that are wicked and not good. So let's pick up right where we left off at question 895. Besides the obvious faults and vices, what is the most characteristic sign of imperfection? So here it's saying, besides obvious things that we can do that are wrong, obvious mistakes that we made, and obvious bad qualities or not great things, what is the most characteristic sign of imperfection? So like, how do you know that someone has not reached perfection yet? And the Spirit's answer: self-interest. Moral qualities are too often like gilding on copper and cannot withstand the acid test. Some individuals may possess good qualities that help them to appear to be virtuous, but those qualities, despite proving that they have made a certain amount of progress, may not be capable of standing trial. The slightest disturbance of their narcissism is enough to reveal their true nature. Absolute disinterest is also rare on earth, and when you do encounter it, you may very well view it as a phenomenon. So here they're saying that the one thing that you can tell that people have not reached perfection yet is their self-interest. So when they're still thinking about themselves, and as us, as imperfect beings, we do think about ourselves a lot, and it's hard to only think about other people. Even if they seem like they're a great person, they're not at that perfection level yet, because some way or other that they have the self-interest within them still, because we haven't reached that state of perfection. And even though the person may seem great, if you still do have these imperfections, they do arise to the surface occasionally. So we need to, even though we say, oh well, I don't always think about that, well, we just need to work on the times that we do, so that we can keep moving forward and keep progressing, so that one day we will be perfect. But so for all people, even if a little thing happens, it might come out. So maybe the person seems great because everything's going well, but maybe when something bad happens, they react to it and you see a different side of them. So this, like, if we're still having self-interest and thinking about ourselves before others, then that's a telltale sign that we have not reached perfection yet. And then it continues. Attachment to material things is a sign of inferiority, because the more you care for things of this world, the less you understand your destiny. Your disinterestedness, on the contrary, proves that you have many more elevated views of the future. So here they're saying also how attached you are to material things, because some people, they're constantly obsessed with having the latest thing, or having all these things, having so many material things, and they're so attached to material things. But if you're attached to material things now, that means that you're not thinking about what's beyond just this material world and right now. So like they say here, the less you understand your destiny, the less you're understanding the big picture, really, because you're only focusing on this one little tiny piece of that big picture. So if you're not attached to a lot of material things, or you can pull yourself away from that, then we're starting to get some evolvement there. We're starting to get some learning, and we're starting to improve, not being super attached to material things. Question 896. Are there people who are indiscreetly generous and who dole out their money without doing any real good due to their lack of a reasonable plan? Is there any merit in their action? So here they're asking, so how about people who just give out lots of money, and they're not really doing anything good, but they're just like, oh, here, I'm donating all this money, just take this money. So what do we think about this? Like, is there any good in what they're doing? Because, okay, they're helping these people, they're donating money, but are they really even thinking about it at all? So how good really is their action? And the spirits answered, they have the merit of disinterestedness, but not that of the good they might do. While disinterestedness is a virtue, thoughtless spending reveals a lack of judgment, to say the least. Fortune is no more given to some individuals to be thrown away than to others to be locked up in a safe. It is a deposit for which they will have to render an account. They will have an answer for all the good they might have done, but also that which they failed to do, as well as all the tears they could have dried with the money they wasted on those who did not truly need it. So while these people, okay, they do have, let's say, disinterestedness, so they're not interested in material things, and they don't care, okay, here, take this money, it's fine, just take it. So they're not holding on to material things, which, okay, that is a good thing. But they're not thinking about what good they could be doing. Instead of it just giving it to random people, do something good with it, or put yourself out there and go volunteer and donate that money, and donate it discreetly. You don't have to tell everyone you donated it. So, because this money was given to us, not for us to just be like, oh, here, I don't want it, throw it away, like, give it away. No, but it's for us to make it the best use of it. Or maybe if we have all the money, then we don't need to work, so we can volunteer all the time. Or so many things. So while, yes, it is a good thing to be helping and be disinterested and not possessing all the money and saying, oh no, this is only mine, I'm the only one who gets it. But also, those types of people need to improve on trying to actually do good and trying to look further than just throwing out money. Question 897. Is it wrong if people do good in the hope that they will be rewarded in the next life, and that their situation will be better there for having done it? Will such an act have an unfavorable consequence on their advancement? So what they're asking is, so how about these people that, okay, they understand our destiny, they understand that there's more to it than just this life, but they only do good because there's like, oh, in the next life I don't want to have to struggle, in the next life I don't want to have to go through this, so I'm going to do good now. But they're kind of doing good selfishly, we can say, because they're doing good but to help themselves. So how can we deal with this, and are they going to have consequences? And the spirits answered, you should do good for the sake of charity, meaning disinterestedly. So when they say disinterestedly, they mean that you are not doing it for yourself. Yourself is not, like, let's say, interested or invested in that situation. So you're doing it completely for charity, completely for the other people. But as how it affects yourself, you don't care about it. You're disinterested, let's say. Even though we know that, oh, doing good things is going to be good for you, but they're using the word disinterestedly so that you can see that we're focusing on the other people. And to you, that's just a disinterest. We're not even focusing on how that it's going to affect you. We're just considering about the people. So we have to do good for the sake of charity, because if we're trying to sneak around and, oh, I'm going to do good, but it's because I want my life to be good, God knows that. It's not like we can't sneak around with God. So, or our mentor spirits, we can't sneak around with them. So they know. So we'll keep having to do that until we do finally learn. And then there's a second part to this question, and it says, it is completely natural to want to advance, to be free from pain, from this painful life. The spirits tell us to do good and reach this end. Is it wrong to hope that through doing good we may better off than we are on earth? So the thing is that while we know we're doing good and we're trying to do good things, what about the thought that's happening behind us? What if when we know we're doing good things, we're like, oh, well, maybe I'll be better off after this life. So what are the thoughts on that? So is it wrong to hope that we'll get to a better state by doing these good things? And the spirits answered, of course not. But those who do good impulsively, simply for the sake of pleasing God and providing relief for their suffering neighbors, have already reached a higher degree of advancement and are closer to reaching ultimate happiness than their brothers and sisters who, being more selfish, do good in hopes of receiving a reward, instead of being compelled by the goodness of their own hearts. So no, it's not wrong for us to see the what we can get from it, to see that we'll have some some good things that come through with it. So if we're doing all this good and we're working hard now, yeah, we will be rewarded, and then in the next life we will be rewarded, and we will be better off than we were because we're learning, we're doing good things. But of course we have that. But of course, people who already aren't even thinking about that, people who are just helping others, they don't even think of that, they've already reached that higher level of perfection, and they're above this, like, oh, I'm thinking about, oh, in the next life I'll be rewarded. People who just do it without thinking of a reward, they're even more advanced than that. So we eventually want to get to a more advanced state, but for now, yeah, it is good to keep doing good and to be like, oh, okay, something, I will be rewarded and I'll be better off by doing these good things. But eventually we'll get to the point where we are doing good things without having to think of a reward, and we'll be at that high state of advance. And there's another part to this question, and it says, should a distinction be made between the good we do for our neighbors and the effort we put forward to correct our own faults? We understand that there is little merit in doing good with the idea that we will be rewarded in the next life. It is also a sign of inferiority to fix ourselves, conquer our passions, correct whatever flaws we may have, in the hopes of bringing ourselves closer to good spirits and elevating ourselves. So here they're saying, so we're not supposed to be focusing on ourselves. We're supposed to be focusing on other people and helping other people. But what about trying to fix ourselves? What about trying to overcome our own challenges, our own flaws? So they're saying, is this a sign of inferiority that we're still trying to fix our own things? And the spirits answered, no. By doing good, we merely mean being charitable. Those who count in every charitable deed they do how much they will be rewarded in this life or the next act selfishly. However, there is no selfishness in improving oneself in the hopes of getting closer to God, which should be everyone's goal. So here they're saying that, no, what they mean is that when you're doing charity, when you're helping someone else, it's about helping the other person. It's not about, I'm going to do this community service so that I can be rewarded. Just like when we have to do community service for school. Most people, you just go because you need the hours to graduate or whatever your school requirements are. So you go to the community service and you're thinking, okay, great, now I finished my requirements that I need for school. But you're not thinking about the other person. But if you're doing good charity, but you still need to work on improving yourself, then that's not acting selfishly, because you do need to get that improvement. We do need to learn. So we want to grow ourselves and to improve ourselves so that we can become closer to God. So working on ourselves and trying to fix ourselves and become better is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That's our goal. We should be trying to fix ourselves, but not trying to fix ourselves when we're helping other people. When we're helping other people, that's our focus. Question 898. Physical life is only a temporary stopover, and our future life is what we should care about primarily. Is there any point in trying to acquire scientific knowledge that only refers to the objects and wants of this world? So what they're saying here is that we know that this physical life that we're living right now, it's just a short little period that we have. Meanwhile, our future is what we should be primarily thinking about. So not the material world. We shouldn't be focusing on the material world, because that's only such a little small portion of our actual lives. So they're saying, okay, if it's only a little small portion, what's the point of making research and discoveries on Earth, if we're only on Earth for a short amount of time? So they're saying, is there a point to doing research and to getting knowledge about things that we don't need? And the Spirit said, of course there is. This knowledge enables you to benefit humankind. Also, if your spirit has already progressed in intelligence, it will rise faster in the spirit life and learn in an hour what it would take years to learn on Earth. No knowledge is useless, since it all contributes to your advancement in one form or another. A perfect spirit must know everything, and progress must be made in every direction. All acquired ideas help forward development. So of course there's a point to researching things on Earth and learning things on Earth, because the more we know here, the more it will help us afterwards. So no knowledge is useless because we'll always be able to apply what we learn. Learning is the best thing we can do. The more we learn, the more we'll be able to apply. So no, even learning about things that may seem that they only relate to Earth, it's still good to have that knowledge, because to reach that perfection, we're going to have that knowledge. And so it's definitely worth it to keep studying and doing research on things, even if it's only of this Earth. It still helps us. And also, of course, by doing this research, we can also help other people, which might not seem like a direct help, but think about scientists who are working so hard to study for the cure to cancer. So they're studying so hard, and we could say, oh, cancer's only of this life, they'll be fine afterwards. But no, they're trying to help other people, they're working hard at it, and it is knowledge that we're going to need to get to that state of advancement anyway. Question 899. Out of two rich individuals who both use their wealth solely for their personal satisfaction, one was born into affluence and has never known want. The other earned his or her wealth by personal labor. Which is more shameful? So they're saying, there's two rich people who only use their money for themselves. They don't think about anyone else. One of them was born into it, and the other worked his way up and managed to get all that money, get all that wealth. So who is more shameful? And the spirits answered, the one who knows suffering and does nothing to relieve it. He or she knows unrelieved pain. Too often, this person no longer remembers the difficulties it has endured. So the person who worked their way up is more at shame, because the person who was born into it, although yes, they are going to have to go through that, they are going to have to fix themselves no matter what, but they were born into it. They don't know any better. But the person who worked their way up, who went through suffering, went through pain, and eventually got to that state, they know the suffering, so they should be actively trying to help people, because they do know the other point of view. They've been there before. So that's more shameful for that person, because they know what other people go through and they still don't help anyone. But of course, in this situation, both individuals are going to have to learn and to grow regardless. So both are going to have to, but the other person is still in that innocent state where they don't actually know what other people go through, while this one does know what people go through and still doesn't help. But they're both going to have to learn and improve on that. Question 900. Can those who constantly accumulate wealth without doing good for anyone find an excuse in the fact that they will leave a large fortune to their heirs? So here what they're saying is that, okay, someone may be super wealthy, but they don't use it to help anyone. They just also keep their money to themselves, hoard it to themselves. But they can they be like, oh, well, when I pass away, I'm going to leave this all to my heirs, to my family, so I'll be helping them and they'll need it, blah, blah, blah. So does that count as an excuse for them doing good by saving their money? And the spirits answered, this is a compromise with a bad conscience. So what they're saying is that you're going to have a bad conscience. That's, that even though you're like, oh, I'm going to help people. Fine. If that's your way that you can help people, if you save it away until you pass away and then you give that money to something or someone who needs it, if that's your way to help people, that's great. But also, they have a bad conscience because they're just trying to kind of manipulate the situation, but we can't manipulate the higher order spirits, our spirit mentors, God. We can't manipulate them. They know what we're thinking. So we're going to have this bad conscience around that we didn't actually do anything. So we're still going to have to go through that and learn from it and until we perfect that. Question 901. Imagine a scenario with two miserly individuals. One forgoes the necessities of life and dies in want, surrounded by treasures. The other is self-indulgent and cheap with respect to others. This person winces at making small sacrifices for others, or serving a noble, because while the cost of indulging personal passions is inconsequential. This individual is always short fines when kindness is asked for others, but has plenty of money to satisfy any of his own whims? Which of them is more disgraceful? Which one will be worse off in the spirit world? So here they're comparing two people, that one that just forgoes the necessities of life and dies surrounded by treasures, like dies with all of this stuff that they have. The other one is indulgent and cheap with respect to others. So if someone asks for help, they say, "Oh, I don't really have any money on me. Oh, I can't really help with that." But when it's something they want, they do everything in their capacity to get it. So which is more disgraceful, and which one's going to be more worse off? And the spirits answered, "The one who recklessly spends money on personal pleasures, because he or she is more selfish than miser. The other is already undergoing a part of the atonement." So when you're just selfishly spending money on yourself and not even helping anyone else, then you're really going to be worse off, because it's not even that you're trying to spend money on other people. Now you're not even thinking about even spending money on people, let alone actually helping them. So they're going to be in a state that they have a lot of learning and improving to do, and they're going to be the ones that are going to be worse off and suffering because of the nothing that they did. Question 902. Is it wrong to wish for wealth as a means of doing good? So they're saying, is it wrong to wish, like, "Oh, I wish I had money so that I could go and help these people"? Like, there's some people who let's say they win the lottery and they keep that to sustain themselves, so they can quit their job so that they can go out and volunteer and do all these things. So is it wrong to wish to be wealthy so that you can do good things? And the spirits answered, "Such a desire is admirable when it is pure, but is it always truly disinterested? Don't people first desire to do good for themselves?" So here they're saying, if this is a true, if this is a pure thing that you are thinking, that you want to solely do good, you want wealth to do good all the time, then yes, that is admirable. That's a great thing. But are you always thinking only about the other person? That's the thing we have to keep in mind. Because we have to have that disinterest, that we're not putting ourselves into it. It's not about us, it's about the other people. So don't we always want to do good for ourselves as well? We want good for ourselves. So there's a little bit of that. We're not only helping other people, we're also helping ourselves. But if this was a wish that was truly pure, then yeah, that would be really great, a really great thing. But we have to make sure that it's a pure wish and we're not trying to get stuff for ourselves. Question 903. Is it wrong to study other people's faults? So is it wrong to look at other people and study all the wrong things that they did? And the spirits answered, "To do so merely for the sake of criticizing or exposing them is wrong, because it demonstrates a lack of charity. To do so for your own benefit, to avoid replication of those flaws, may sometimes be useful, but you must not forget that understanding the faults of others is one of the elements of charity. Before criticizing others for their flaws, you should look at yourself and see if others could criticize you for the same faults. The only way to profit by such a critical examination of one's faults is by trying to acquire the opposite virtues. Are those you criticize cheap? Be generous. Are they proud? Be humble and modest. Are they callous? Be gentle. Are they cruel and petty? Be great in everything that you do. Basically, act in such a way so that it may not be said of you, in Jesus' words, that you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not see the beam in your own." So here what they're saying is that if you're studying other people's faults just to say, "Wow, look at what they did wrong, that's so bad, look at what they're doing, blah blah blah," if you're just talking bad about them, then that's a horrible thing to do. You're not being charitable to them, because be able to understand and being able to understand that other people have faults and not judge them for it is a part of charity. So we can't just sit here and say, "Oh my God, look at that person, look at all the things they did wrong." No, look at yourself and think, what do you think people say about me when they think, "Oh, look at that person, look at all the things they did wrong"? So we need to be kind when we're even if we are observing someone's faults, which we can do to learn for ourselves, saying, oh, that person did that, and you can analyze the situation and say, wow, next time I'll make sure I don't get myself in that situation, or if I'm in that situation, I'll do something different because now I know what that person went through. So if we're using it to learn from it and to help ourselves grow from that experience so that we don't have to experience ourselves, then that's fine. But we have to make sure we're not criticizing others, because as we criticize others, other people can criticize us right back. So instead of just criticizing people, and even if we're trying to grow from it, if you see someone and you think, wow, that person's so cheap, then be generous. Do the opposite. Instead of just sitting here and talking bad about that person, do the opposite and be that good person so that they can't come back and say the same thing to you. Like we say sometimes, like when people were hypocrites, when they say something, but then they do the opposite. So we can't do that. If we're going to be criticizing someone's faults, well, we shouldn't, but even if we're learning from it, then we have to learn from it. We have to improve ourselves. And then there's the saying, Jesus is saying, that says, you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not see the beam in your own. So we're looking at this person, the person across from us, and we're thinking, wow, look at all these things wrong. That person did this and that. We're looking at all the little details of their life, like a little speck in their eye, like a little fuzz they got in their eye. We're looking at that little fuzz and saying, oh my God, they have a little fuzz in their eye. That's so horrible. But meanwhile, we don't realize that we have a whole beam sticking out of our eye, but we can't realize that. So we shouldn't criticize people because we're not perfect ourselves, and people can come back and criticize us too. So it's definitely okay to try and learn from other people's mistakes so we don't have to go through that, but not criticize them. So that's where we'll leave off today. But before we leave off, I'd like to read our message from the Daily Book of Positive Quotations by Linda Picone for today's date, August 28th. Opportunity for kindness. You cannot do a kindness too soon, for you never know how soon it will be too late. We shouldn't wait for the perfect moment to give a compliment or do a favor. Moments come and go too quickly. If we wait for them, we're likely to miss them altogether. We should always indulge an urge to do something nice for others. When the impulse hits, go with it. Give the compliment. Do the favor. Say something that will cheer a friend. I don't want to miss the chance to be kind to those around me, so I won't. I'd also like to let you guys all know that from our first International Spiritist Youth Weekend, we have created a website, and the website is up, spiritusyouth.org, and there you can see all that we did throughout the event, see the amazing things that we all came up with as Spiritist Youth and how we can change the world, the amazing things we participated in. So please visit spiritusyouth.org to find more information about our event, and hopefully you can join us next year. If at all you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to talk about, feel free to email me at kardecradioforteens@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you right away. I'm Bia, and this has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening. This has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening.